we only get one shot to get it done right the first time.
But this is what happens to us, is that we're working on our thing, and then the bullshit happens with the vehicle exclusion zone, and then we have to drop what we're doing to deal with that, or something happens over there, and it's challenging. It's really challenging, and that's by design. They do this shit. They constantly change the plans. They rearrange what they're doing because many times we've had things mapped out, and then they change it. We're like, well, that was just useless. And so that's the cycle that we're in. But we have to give this priority. So I will apologize for not getting it out in such a timely fashion. It's very important. So perhaps, Scott, if you want to bug me and
sure.
You seem to be doing a good job at that. So
I'm bugging Jane now to get.
Yes, Jane, did you get Scott's stuff?
I haven't sent it back to him yet. No.
Yeah, I noticed.
You noticed, Jane.
Yeah, well, my cat is surgery day, so kind of.
Did she get home okay?
She's back now, yeah.
Okay,
But she's freaking out because she's got the big thing on her face and stuff.
She's got a cat cone?
Yeah, I'll try to get that back to you in the morning, Scott.
Thank you so
Did
much.
you hear that, Scott?
Yeah.
I was wondering, are you guys working in conjunction with other,
No.
like the Justice Institutes and
No,
With who?
Justice Institute?
No,
West?
no. Anyone who's doing like any of the constitutional centers, they use charter, so no. I don't know a single group I don't know a group that's taking the action that we do that's not using the charter. And I won't even, we will not even associate with a group that's using the charter because it completely undermines our values and our position because it's detrimental. And this is evidence-based, this isn't opinion-based, this is the cases that have been lost in the past 2 years, significant cases where judges have ruled your rights can be taken away because it's Section 1. It's the churches in Manitoba, the church in Alberta, Church of God in Elmer, the TTC, the TDSB, the Ambassador Injunction, and there was another one recently.
Is it true that there's someone that
The charter right away?
have to cancel it?
I don't think so. You might be talking about what's her name? Nicole from I can't remember the name of her group. She went to the UK, but she's a fan of the charter, and I'm not even I'm a little confused as to what she's doing. Power shift, yeah. So she's she wants to make the charter more solidified.
Oh, because I read someone was trying to make it like cancel.
I haven't heard, but it is sedition. It is a seditious document because
It was unconstitutional.
Yeah, I'm going to add out when PowerShift first came out, 6 weeks ago with their most recent, I sent an email to them almost immediately identifying who I was, and I'd like to talk to them about their viewpoints and see if there's any mutual ground there that we could collaborate. It took about 3 weeks before I got a generic email saying we'll be back to you, and they've never ever reached out, to my knowledge, to you. Have they ever reached out to you or Jane, Rebecca?
no, but I honestly I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So here's the thing, I tried to reach out to them. They haven't reached out to us, and it's like, whatever. Clearly they're not on the same page as us.
Well, no, they're using the charter, and quite frankly, I don't feel the need, and I don't really have the time to figure out who people are, and I just don't work with any other groups. I've tried in the past and it hasn't worked out well, so I just don't bother. I've tried a few times and actually got burned doing that, so I just don't bother. Happy to
well, we work with smaller groups like Windsor Angels and other groups that are on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have a question for you. Because the case you guys lost using Bill of Rights.
Well, hold on a second. That was your.
Well,
Well, no, let's clarify that because that wasn't a court case. That was a tribunal with a chair. And it was a Section 22 order. Jane, because I know this is going around, but this wasn't a court case. Jane, do you want to explain it?
Kelly Hill.
Yeah.
With the rest of the
It
Yeah.
was Section 22
Yeah.
order, and they said that he was non-compliant with Regulation 36420 of the Reopening of Ontario Act, and therefore they had to issue him an order under the Health Protection and Promotion Act, and they didn't meet the conditions to impose an order under there for a number of reasons. First of all, they could not identify any enforcement under 36420. So if there's no enforcement, then you cannot say that somebody's non-compliant, right? If you don't have to comply. So that's A, right out of the gate. And then B, there's 3 conditions to establish the need for these orders. One is that there has to be the presence of a communicable disease, and 2, that disease has to be considered posing a risk to the public, and 3, they have to demonstrate through reasonable and probable grounds that what they're recommending will actually reduce the risk. So we had the public health officer, Dr. Oglaza, testifying, and he first of all testified that he didn't know of any enforcement, so that kind of blows it apart. And then he also testified that he knows of no study that shows that mask reduces the transmission of COVID, or any studies that show that vaccine reduces the transmission of COVID. So he can't show that he has reasonable probable grounds that he's going to reduce the risk. So we should have won right there on that basis. And furthermore, we brought up the Bill of Rights, and Kelly being required to enforce mask and vaccine passport would make him in violation of the Canadian Bill of Rights, because he would be a citizen enforcing law, which is regulated under the Criminal Code, Section 25, and in which case the Bill of Rights would apply. So what they did there was they recharacterized what we argued, and they said that we cannot use the Bill of Rights to overturn provincial law, which is not what we said. In fact, the last thing I said in the hearing is, please don't recharacterize my position, blah, blah, blah. My position is that the enforcement is regulated. So we didn't get a good decision, and that decision is under appeal.
They mischaracterized a lot of things. It was
Yeah.
horrible. It was
Yeah, and they broke rules left, right, and center.
Oh.
They abused our witnesses. We had 2 doctors brought in, and they straight up out front abused them. I had to have a friggin' major conundrum, create a conundrum to get them to stop doing that. The chair wouldn't even stop them.
How long does the appeal typically take, Jane?
The appeal? How long is the appeal? I think we don't get our appeal date until I think it's like November or something.
Well,
We have a preliminary hearing coming up in, I think it's July, just with some of the like logistic issues, and then the actual trial is, I believe it's October or November, something like that.
It was pretty astounding, the behavior. So there was a chair. Yeah, there was a chair, and then by the way, the lawyer is no longer on the. He got banned from the project or from the case.
Bounced, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things he did is, when I was questioning Oglaza under oath, he kept piping in and answering for him.
Yes.
I have to interject, he said. And you're not allowed to interject when somebody's being questioned under oath. You're allowed to object to the question, but you're not allowed to interject, like answer for him, for Christ's sake. And he did it several times, and the chair didn't stop him. I had to have a little go at him.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really difficult to
because there'll be a precedent of any other businesses.
So
That's why they're appealing it.
Different note. Recently, Bill C-100 passed.
Yeah, Bill 100, the provincial one.
Yeah. Right. And just a question, was that ever brought up for the Rolling Thunder?
No, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
No one ever mentioned it. No one ever discussed it. No one
No.
ever. Yeah.
Can you
no,
give
it
a
was-
background to the Bill 100?
Well, that's the bill that they wanted to put in place to prevent like bridge blockades. That would happen in
critical
North-
infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so
Airports.
yeah, so and also the ability to impound your car and suspend your license for 15 days if you were
At your house, even.
yeah, and if you were a commercial vehicle to take your commercial license away.
Fines.
Fucking turn
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Never
yeah.
passed, eh?
Yeah.
Is it passed?
Yeah.
When?
Take off your plate, take
No,
the plates
no
off your
hearing.
plate.
And then it's a provincial bill?
Yes.
But it never came up for the
Ontario?
Like for the Rolling Thunder, they never mentioned it. No one ever used it. No one ever.
Was the Alberta using after June 2nd.
Oh, is that it? June 2nd?
I got 10 on
I'm
this
just
car.
saying it's the
Oh.
election after June 2nd.
Yeah, right. After June 2nd. Oh, actually, I wanted to address something else that came up on the old interwebs. So, there were two regulations that came out of the Emergencies Act. One was for regulations for protesting, and the other was a regulation for finances. I don't know if they called it that, but and Jane.
Ava, you leave.
We can hear you, Jane.
Oops. Oh, sorry. Okay.
She's a cute little dog. Ironically, Jane and I just read through the Emergencies Act like a couple of days before this post came out. And so a woman did a video and she was quite upset about these two regulations still being invoked. And she stated that she spoke to a lawyer. And I hope that that's not true because the lawyer would be very much mistaken. So how it works is that you'll have an act like the Emergencies Act, and then the act itself is dormant until an emergency is declared. And there's 4 different types of emergencies in the Emergencies Act. Once an emergency is declared, then they create regulations, which is like the parameters to say, like, you can't protest, we're going to take a car, or whatever, right? So when you read the regulations, I don't remember the numbers of these 2 regulations, it clearly states, pursuant to Section 17, bracket 1 of the Emergencies Act, pursuant to Section 19, bracket 1 of the Emergencies Act. So what that means in this instance is that these regulations are only invoked pursuant to these 2 sections that are in the Emergencies Act. And these 2 particular sections of the Emergencies Act pertain to a declared emergency. So basically, the regulations on their own do nothing. They need to have the act invoked. They need to have the Emergencies Act invoked in order for these regulations to be kickstarted. And I want to mention this because I saw this video is making its rounds. I can't tell you how many messages I got. And I was like, no, that's not the case. So again, when you have regulations, they'll sit under an act. If the act is no longer invoked, these regulations are no longer active. Now, in saying that, what Ontario did was they created an act to make every day an emergency for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's crazy though, because when you read the Reopening Ontario Act, it still says that there needs to be an emergency. So it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify because it's making its rounds and I don't want to see people get upset about it because Jane and I looked at it again and it clearly says pursuant to, which means off of 17.1 and 19.1 of the Act.
So the current situation is there is a provincial emergency in place today?
Well, no, so how it works